Hi everyone, I'm back from hiking the PCT and I'm quickly going to go through a bunch of the stuff that I took with me or sent back or things that I found really useful. This doesn't represent every single thing that I had on trail, certainly, but it's just kind of the basic stuff that I used almost every single day, whether it was in California or Oregon or Washington. So I just kind of want to give you guys a general idea of where I landed with a lot of the gear. So my pack was an Osprey Atmos 65 AG. It was very, very good. Nothing broke, no zippers broke. It's a little bit heavier than some of the ultralight packs, but the durability kind of proved to be an amazing sort of benefit. I really didn't have to worry about anything busting. I mean, you have to be careful with it. You can't just, yank on zippers, but it really did kind of work as something that I could count on, which is really nice. And I would say by halfway through Oregon and all of Washington, I could have gone down to a significantly smaller size, probably 50 or 55. But that would have been pretty light, and I would have been cutting out a lot of stuff, so I just stuck with it, especially just because I didn't want to buy a whole other pack. So anyways, if you're thinking about the Osprey Atmos sort of series, I would recommend this for sure. Let's see, so this is my sleeping bag. This was a Sierra, it was 18 degree down. These are pretty straightforward. Basically just make sure you get a down sleeping bag. And definitely make sure you get a stuff sack because it decreases the size dramatically. I think that's kind of a given. But just make sure you do. And they can break pretty easily. So this is my second one. And then this is my little air mattress. This is an Evo Light, I think. It was pretty good. I blew it up too much a couple of times and it kind of exploded from the inside, so it's sort of my fault. But it was very, very comfortable and it's also very light. So, I would recommend it. Just don't blow it up too much. This is my compass and my emergency whistle, both things that you should definitely bring. I really didn't use either one. Well, no, I did use the whistle once, although that was kind of ridiculous. But it's a long story. Just make sure you bring a whistle and a compass, though, even if they're extra weight. Those are things that could come in handy. These are the original 2 bottles. They made it all 26 plus 100 miles. They are, they're kind of like wonders of science. They're just amazing. I dropped them, I stepped on them, I could kick them, everything. They're just unbelievable. So if you want something to last, definitely get smart water bottles. And this is not a sponsored, branding moment. They are actually that good. Also, I used the Sawyer Mini. This thing was okay. I used it constantly in the desert. It doesn't really go that fast, but it's so light that it's almost worth it. Some people had a slightly bigger one that was faster. You just kind of get used to the gear that you have. And then also, as I was saying in the original video, this thing hooks up to this thing, so you can backwash this thing and not carry the tube that it comes with to wash it out. These are little iodine tablets. I actually almost stopped using this completely for most of Oregon and Washington and just was throwing little tablet thingies. Actually, I don't know if they're iodine, but whatever they are, they clear up the water. And it makes the water taste a little funny, but since I was so lazy, I didn't want to use this thing. I just use these. But I would recommend these. They work. I didn't get sick. Okay, so this is my little seat pad. This thing is great. I used it, a dozen times a day. It was just really, really good to not have to sit on wet dirt or, the opposite, super dusty places. It was kind of, like my little friend on the trail. So I would recommend bringing one of these. And if you have, extra sleeping pad, then you could cut part of it off and just use that. Then also for water, I used, so I actually had a 3-liter platypus, which I got rid of in Oregon because I just didn't need that much storage because there was enough water around. But in the desert, it was actually kind of necessary. We had a bunch of stretches over 20 miles without water. So you really need to load up on as much water as you can. And so I tossed that just because I didn't really need it, but I would consider bringing a bladder, not necessarily to use in the back of your pack to drink from, but just to carry water. And so then these I used in Oregon and Washington. These are pretty straightforward. They usually carry dirty water. And so I would filter it, or, if I needed to carry 4 liters, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I could do that. So, just make sure you bring a couple of those. And they can pop, and they usually did for many people. So just be prepared to replace them. Okay, so sunglasses, I lost 1 pair on the 4th day, and then I had those the rest of the time, although I stopped using them for maybe the second half, but they're pretty essential, at least they were for me in the desert. I bought a bunch of little plastic bags and carried little toiletries and so on in there. They lasted the whole way, which is really nice. Suntan lotion, I bought this little thing, and this is really good. Again, I don't know if you use suntan lotion, but if you do, and probably should, that worked really well. Sharpie, I used 3 times for hitchhiking signs, and that actually proved to be very useful. I also had a pen, and that was useful for all sorts of stuff when you get into towns, or if you want to write at night. So my jet boil, used it every single day. Super good. It had virtually no issues at all. There were a couple nights when I would wake up in the morning and be a little below 30, and if you were above like 6,000 or 7,000 feet, it took a few little clicks to get started. But for the most part, it was fine. And finding fuel on the trail, or when you go into towns, is actually not that hard. So this is a pretty good item to have if you are gonna cook. Some people had stoves. I wouldn't necessarily say that you would have to have one or the other. It's just really a preference. So I would cook my mountain houses with those, or with this, and then make coffee in the morning. My ridiculous luxury item that I left out of my original video is this giant knife, which for some reason it made me feel safer, which I know again is totally insane, but I carried it with me the entire way. And I used it quite a bit, and I used it in lieu of a smaller knife as well. But you definitely do not need something like that. This is my coffee cup. Coffee was kind of a luxury thing for me on the trail. This is super good brand. It's titanium, and I've stepped on it and thrown it and stuff, and it just never ever bends at all. So if you need a little cup like that, definitely get this one. It's not cheap, but it's worth it. All right, my tent was a Fly Creek UL1. It worked really, really well. The key sort of element of having a good tent is making sure it's waterproof, and this is definitely waterproof. It's a little small. I'm almost 6 feet, and I really kind of filled it up. There's the UL2, which is quite a bit bigger, and it's a trade-off because you have more size, or more room, but the size definitely limits some places where you can set up your tent. So it's up to you. If you're smaller, maybe 5'8", 5'9", then this would probably work pretty well. And everyone who had the UL1 was very happy with it, so you kind of get used to the size. Okay, so I had this umbrella. This is the UV reflecting umbrella. It came in super handy in a lot of places in the desert, so I would recommend bringing one. I sent it back after the desert, and it was, it was just super useful. It really kind of buys you some time to find shade during the day. I had a couple days that were over 110, and this thing, while it may not literally have been a lifesaver, was probably pretty close. So, I would recommend getting one, but it's not an essential item. I kept my wallet and passport in here. Passport came later when I was going to cross the border. And then I also put that inside a plastic bag as well. It was just kind of good for safekeeping. I brought a Kindle. I read tons on the trail, so that was great. Extra weight, and I did send it back later, but it really does make a difference. So I had my little personal beacon locator that speaks for itself. I did not use it, but again, very good to have. My headlamp worked really well. Make sure you bring extra batteries, even if they're rechargeable batteries. I really would recommend bringing extra batteries because I had 2 nights where I had virtually no light, and that is not a great feeling. I brought a Mophie battery pack that again speaks for itself. I think that was good for about 2 charges. And that was also kind of an essential item for me because I use my phone all the time. And then I brought a bunch of little bags. I think these are supposed to be waterproof. I don't know if they actually are, but there's, medication in there, ibuprofen, other little toiletries, stuff like that. So those are really useful to collect little things instead of letting them, get all over the place in your bag. Okay, down here, this is my clothes bag and my pillow. I used it every single night. Really great, not ideal, and which you'll find out for a great night's sleep, but you'll be so tired that it doesn't really matter. So it's again very straightforward, and it got kind of gross after a while, but you can definitely wash it. Headphones, those are good. My shoes were Peregrine 5s, they're Sauconys, and this is my 3rd pair. They're very light, and they're trail runners, and so that you go through them pretty quickly, but they're really good. I liked them a lot, and also I had the insoles. What are they called? I forget what they're called, but things like that. So those go right in there. You take out the inside, the insole that it comes with, and you put that in. I went through 2 of those. So good shoes, I like them, but again, the shoe sort of aspect of the hike is really up to you, but I think lighter might be better. Make sure you don't bring boots. Those will wreck your toes. The poles, somehow I thought I wasn't going to use them that much, and now the idea of hiking without poles seems bizarre. These things were absolutely indestructible. They were expensive though. They were over 120 bucks, but they were worth every cent. I mean, really, really, they saved me from falling probably 50 times, and they help you get up hills. So not everyone loves them, but most people on trail have them, and most people like them. So I would go with a light pair if you could, because it does make a big difference. That's my bear canister. That speaks for itself. You'll figure that out once you get to it. Not a great item to carry around, but you have to. And then that's my sack, and this is my food sack for, I guess, the Oregon and Washington. And I also had another food sack to start with that was much lighter, but the bugs could definitely get through it. So make sure you have something that's durable and keeps bugs out. Okay, so this is my down, I think it was Patagonia coat. A critical item to have. Don't buy something that's like 50 bucks that's not down, because you will be freezing, like really, really, really cold. So make sure you get that. I wore it all the time, almost every single day. So just make sure you don't skimp on that, just like the sleeping bag. This was for my phone, which is a life-proof thing. If you have an iPhone, or any phone, you'll definitely want to protect it as much as possible. And it will get wet, so just make sure this thing is in order. These are my flip-flops / town shoes. Those are pretty critical items. I don't really know anyone who didn't have them. Something to wear in a town while you're washing your clothes and stuff. So I would bring those. They're kind of, and they're good for having them in camp, although I didn't really wear them that much after a while, but they work pretty well. Bandana, wore that every single day. Definitely bring one no matter what. It's good for blowing your nose and sweat and all sorts of gross stuff. I had 3 pairs of ex officio underwear, but I don't know what happened to the other one. Anyways, so these are good. They're just make sure they fit before you bring them on the trail. I had one that was too big, and then you'll definitely lose weight. I lost just over 30 pounds. So you'll have to kind of adjust a lot of your clothing based on that, but that's kind of the future thing. Anyway, so these things are good, and they don't really smell too bad after a while, which is kind of nice. Don't bring cotton. This is my raincoat. This is a helium, I think. Again, make sure it's waterproof. That, at some point could be a very, very critical thing to have. I had long johns after a while. They were good for when it got colder. Then I had 2 shirts. The bottom one here is town shirt. The top one was my hiking shirt. That with the top one actually I didn't really wear until after California because I wore one of those long sleeve Columbia SPF 50 shirts, which was great. Super good at protecting you from the sun. So, and I don't know what happened to it. It's gone along with the underwear, but it really great. So make sure you bring some sort of long sleeve that's lightweight and doesn't just soak up sweat, because you will sweat a lot. And then yeah, town shirt was pretty important to have. This is my little fleece cap beanie thing. I wear that almost every single night. An essential item, and this one was good. I think this is Mountain Hardwear, I think. And then, so I had these gloves, which I found were good, but the mittens here, you know, because your hands are all together, and the mittens, they stay quite a bit warmer. So I had both, and eventually I sent these back and just used the mittens. You know, they do limit you with your mobility a little bit, but they were much, much warmer. Then I had a couple pairs of Darn Toughs socks, and then also Ngis at the beginning. And then after the desert, I got rid of the Ngis and just stuck with one pair of Darn Toughs. And after your feet kind of get slammed by you know, everything, they get used to not getting, you know, too many blisters. So one pair was fine. Then a hat. I used to have a, you know, like a desert kind of hat with the rim. And that was great. And then again, after the desert, I sent it back, and then I just wore, you know, baseball caps, and that was enough. You don't need a hat, but for the desert, I would say you definitely do. So there's a lot of stuff here I think that I'm probably leaving out, but you know, these are, you know, kind of like the basic items that you'd want to think about bringing, and really, you know, I wouldn't sweat it too much. Basically, I found, and I think most people found, that on the trail, whatever you bring, you're going to get used to. So don't really freak out about it. Just make sure that your stuff is waterproof, and you know, things like this down jacket are actually down, because it will make a difference. A lot of people, well, not a lot, but some people brought coats that just weren't quite up to snuff, and they were very, very cold, so they had to go into towns and buy stuff. So you don't want to, you know, buy repeat items. So that's it. Just let me know if you have any questions about any of this stuff, or you know, what I might be leaving out. And it's certainly about the trail. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. Thanks very much.